Good morning. Welcome to Mega News at 6 on MBN TV. Coming to you live from our 10th Avenue Extension, Greater Estate, Nongwa Adugono. We'll first take a look at the headlines.
32 more Ghanaians evacuated from South Africa arrive in Accra. In business, building cost inflation rises to 3.1% in June, GSS. And on the international front, Ghana vindicated as South Africa confirms identity of slain citizen Ablakwa.
My name is El Samuels. The news is also live across all our social media handle on MBN 360. We'll bring you details of the story right after this break. In our first story, a total of 32 Ghanaian nationals, including children, have arrived at Accra International Airport as part of government ongoing evacuation exercise from South Africa amidst concerns over anti-foreign attacks and xenophobic violence.
The arrival forms part of the second phase of the evacuation program, which commenced on Sunday, July 26, to assist Ghanaians who have opted to return home due to growing safety concerns. The government is expected to evacuate about 1,000 more Ghanaians under the latest phase of the exercise. The move follows reports of renewed attacks targeting foreign nationals in parts of South Africa, prompting calls for measures to protect Ghanaians living in the country. Meanwhile, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, says the government is offering each evacuee a sum of 5,500 Ghana cedis as a reintegration grant and travel and transport allowance as part of efforts to ensure their dignified return and reintegration into the Ghanaian system.
Moving on, nearly 2 million young Ghanaians are either in education, employment, not training, highlighting the country's growing challenge of turning its youthful population into a productive workforce, according to the Ghana Statistical Services.
The GSS said about 2 million people aged 15 to 35, representing 19.5% of Ghana's youth population, were classified as not in education, employment, or training as of the third quarter of 2025. The figures were released as part of activities marking World Population Day under the theme Investing in Ghana's Future Through Healthy, Skilled and Empowered Young People. The service said the findings underscored the need for stronger investments in education, skills development and job creation to ensure young people are equipped to contribute to national development. The GSS also highlighted concerns over adolescent pregnancy, citing findings from the 2022 Ghana Demographic and Health Survey, which showed that 15% of girls aged 15 to 19 had ever been pregnant, while 11% had already given birth. According to the service, early pregnancy can interrupt education, reduce access to skills development, and limit young women's long-term participation in the labor market. The NEET figures come against the backdrop of persistently high youth unemployment. Data from the quarterly labor force survey for the first 3 quarters of 2025 showed that unemployment among people age 15 to 35 averaged 21 to 9% compared with the national average of 12.8%. The GSS said Ghana's demographic profile presents both an opportunity and a challenge. Young people aged 15 to 35 now account for 36.9% of the country's estimated population of 33.7 million, up from 34.6% in 2000, making youth outcomes increasingly important to the country's long-term economic prospects. The service called for increased investment in technical and vocational education, stronger school-to-work transition programs, support for apprenticeship, and expansion of sectors capable of creating decent jobs. It said whether Ghana benefits from its growing youth population will depend on the country's ability to equip young people with the education, skills, and employment opportunities needed to participate fully in the economy.
The Center for Policy Security (CPS) has raised concerns about government inability to provide variable evidence on jobs created under its flagship employment programs, saying the 490,000 jobs projected under the Big Push initiative cannot be confirmed 2 years after the promise was made.
The labor economist at CPS, Dr. Prince Ejay, said while government has announced several initiatives expected to generate employment, there is currently no reliable data to establish the actual number of jobs created. Making a presentation at the 2026 Media Budget Review organized by the Center for Policy Scrutiny on Tuesday, July 28, 2026, Dr. Ejay explained that measuring employment outcomes requires clear indicators, including permanent jobs, temporary jobs, indirect jobs, and sustained employment. He noted that while some projects have commenced, implementation progress alone cannot be used as proof of job creation. According to him, out of the 87 projects assessed under the Big Push program, 28 have achieved more than 25% completion, while 59 remain below the 25% completion mark. Dr. Ejay said, although the projects indicate that implementation has started, the absence of employment records makes it difficult to determine their impact on the labor market. He further called for the establishment of a national job creation monitoring system that will provide real-time data on employment outcomes from government programs. According to him, governments must move beyond announcing allocations and projects to measuring actual employment results. The CPS also raised concerns about specific flagship programs, including the Accra-Kumasi Expressway project, which was projected to create about 80,000 jobs. Dr. Ejay said the project is currently at the preparatory stage with right-of-way clearing ongoing, making it difficult to verify any employment impact. He added that other initiatives, including agricultural enclave roads, garment factories, agro-processing plants, and apprenticeship programs are yet to provide sufficient evidence of actual jobs created.
Now let's move on to the business front, where Ghana is building a cost. Inflation rose 3.1% in June 2026, up from 2.7% in May, as high material and plant costs push up construction expenses, according to the latest Prime Building Cost Index (PBCI) released by the Ghana Statistical Service.
Despite the year-on-year increase, construction costs eased slightly during the month, with the month-on-month inflation rate falling to negative 0.1% in June from 1.4% in May. The PBCI measures changes in the cost of key construction inputs, including materials, labor, and equipment, using 2023 as the base year. The index is used by developers, contractors, investors, and policymakers to track cost movements and inform contract pricing and investment decisions. The June 2026 rate represents a significant slowdown from the 18.1% recorded in June 2025, continuing a broader decline in building cost inflation over the past year. Since February 2026, the rate has remained within a narrow range of 2.2% to 2.7% before rising slightly in June. Building inflation has slowed sharply from 18.1% in June 2025 to 3.1% in June 2026. Government statistician Dr. Alhassan Idrisu said, although it rose slightly from 2.7% in May, building costs are increasing far more slowly than a year ago, supporting better planning and investment.
Catch everyone's attention. 1 year ago, building inflation in Ghana stood at 18.1%. Today, it is just 3.1%. That is a decline of 15 percentage points in only 12 months. While building costs are still rising, they are increasing much more slowly than they were a year ago. The Ghana Statistical Service has today released the June 2026 Prime Building Cost Index, or PBCI. PBCI measures how the cost of constructing buildings change over time by tracking the prices of building materials, labor, and construction equipment, also known as plant. It helps government, contractors, developers, investors, and households make better decisions about budgeting, pricing, and infrastructure investment. In June 2026, year-on-year building inflation was 3.1%, up from 2.7% in May, but far below the 18.1% recorded in June last year. Year-on-year inflation simply compares prices with the same month 1 year earlier. On a month-on-month basis, which compares June with May this year, prices fell by 0.1%, indicating that overall building costs were broadly stable during the month. The story differs across three major building cost groups. Materials inflation increased from 3.5% in May to 3.9% in June and accounted for over 96% of headline inflation, making it the main driver of rising building costs. Labor inflation became more negative, falling from negative 2% to negative 2.6%, while labor costs also declined by 0.1% over the month. In contrast, plant inflation accelerated sharply from 9.8% to 16%, with equipment costs rising 5.1% in just 1 month, signaling increasing pressure from machinery and tools. Among the subgroups, electrical works contributed the most to overall inflation, followed by metalwork, glazing, plumbing, and tiles.
From the Ghana Statistics Service, we move straight to the international front, where government of Ghana has been vindicated in its position that it did not engage in misinformation over the killing of Ghanaian nationals in South Africa. Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa has said.
According to Mr. Ablakwa, South African authorities have now confirmed that the deceased Ghanaian initially identified by South Africa as Kwabena Bajin is actually Bashiru Isaac. Speaking at a press briefing in Accra, the Foreign Affairs Minister said Ghana had always maintained that the name provided by South African authorities was incorrect and insisted that the government never misled the public. He said the identity of Mr. Isaac had now been confirmed beyond any scintilla of doubt, adding that Ghana's High Commission in Pretoria had formally protested the matter and engaged South African authorities over the incident. Mr. Ablakwa explained that the Ghanaian government, through the High Commission, also filed a complaint with the South African Police Service and continued to monitor investigations into the killing. He said Mr. Isaac's remains were brought to Ghana on July 14, 2026, with the consent of his family and taken to the 37 Military Hospital for an independent autopsy. The minister said the decision to conduct a separate autopsy became necessary because the Ghanaian authorities and the family were unable to obtain the official post-mortem report from the South African authorities. Mr. Ablakwa added that a coroner's report had been prepared and would be released alongside the autopsy report to guide the government's next steps. He reiterated Ghana's demand for a full, transparent, and swift investigation into Mr. Isaac's death, insisting that those responsible must be arrested and prosecuted. Mr. Isaac was killed in South Africa amid growing concerns over attacks targeting foreign nationals in the country. His death triggered calls for stronger protection for Ghanaians living abroad and renewed diplomatic discussions between Ghana and South Africa. Providing an update on another Ghanaian Kojo entry who was reportedly killed in South Africa's Northern Cape province on July 18, Mr. Ablakwa said investigations investigations were ongoing to determine whether the incident was linked to the recent xenophobic attacks.
Let's hold a minute silence to remember our two brothers who died in South Africa, coming under attacks, killed by unknown assailants. We are still demanding justice, and we have written to the South African authorities that the two Ghanaians who have been killed, killing must not be covered up.
And I was the Foreign Affairs Minister, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. That brings us to the end of this morning's Mega News at 6. Now, before we take a leave, let's take a second look at the stories making headlines.
32 more Ghanaians evacuated from South Africa arrive in Accra. In business, building cost inflation rises to 3.1% in June, GSS. And on the international front, Ghana vindicated as South Africa confirms identity of slain citizen Ablakwa.
For more story, log on to MBN 360. My name is El Samuels. Up next is a sports update. Good morning.